but the appraisal is being written for the city at the city's request so that it can make a decision about the value of the property so that it can negotiate with the owner of the property for acquisition. You know, there is no closed minds on this process of doing an appraisal. Appraisers are not little angels from heaven that comes down with all knowing. If there are issues that I missed, please give them to me and we can resolve that shortly.
The residents do not live in a flood zone. Your response to that was, we in New Orleans, we all live in a flood zone. That is not an appropriate answer from an appraiser when people do not pay the same amount of money for their house insurance based on where they live. That's not appropriate. The residents live in all brick houses. You gave a whole lecture to them about brick veneer. We understand the difference between those two. The houses that you chose are all in that neighborhood. And even though you say that they're similar neighborhoods, we understand, and I think you would as well as an appraiser who's been doing this for quite some time, that these neighborhoods are located where they are as a result of discriminatory practices and devaluation. Redlining is a thing. So when you use your appraisals in discriminatory ways and people don't get the money that they are rightfully due, they have to stay within the red line. We understand that.
First of all, there is no discrimination whatsoever on my part as it relates to an appraisal, whether here or any place else.
Maxwell Chardulo, I'm with the Louisiana Fair Housing Action Center. I just want to bring a fair housing perspective to this. After hearing a little more specifics about how this works from Mr. Thorns, that he is going to look at unimpaired neighborhoods and comparables in those unimpaired neighborhoods. And that sounds like supposed to be some sort of an objective process, but I want to be clear that there's actually quite a lot of subjectivity in which neighborhoods you choose, right? And because if you choose the same 3-bedroom home in a white neighborhood versus a black neighborhood, there could be a $100,000 difference there in the price of that home. And that is certainly something that we figured out during the road home process. And it cost the state and the federal government a $62 million settlement. And I think it is particularly concerning that it is a contractor for the administration who's going to be choosing exactly which neighborhood he decides to compare to, when the administration has at every turn tried to spend as little money as possible on this process. And so I just want you to take that into consideration when we talk about why it is so important to use the cost replacement and make sure that that is factored in. That is how the federal government and the state government settled that lawsuit around the road home, is they agreed to use replacement costs so that it would not be discriminatory. So, thank you.
And for those who are confused, even with a black mayor, who is also a woman, and black council people, and a black city attorney, environmental racism will continue if those black elected and appointed officials use tools that result in devaluation and discriminatory practices. People will make this all to not be about race, but race is woven all through this process.
A significant step that has to be addressed is the land value issue, because I think it's an underlying issue that's going to make relocation very difficult for a replacement cost if you don't acknowledge the land value issue.
And if I'm being in all candor, I think our challenge will be in our combined effort conversations with the appraiser to address some of those specific issues as it relates to it. So